What's going on, everyone? I'm Jeremy, and I'd like to welcome you to Let's Talk Finances. On this week's guest list, we have Val Varela, who has been an educator for the past 6 years. She is a high school teacher, athletic director, and volleyball coach. What a fun and interesting conversation we both had right after the new year about what it's been like to teach high school students amidst this COVID pandemic. Here is Val Varela. Hi Val, Happy New Year. How are you?
Hey Jeremy, I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Hey, I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to 2021. 2020, bye-bye.
Seriously, I'm so glad it's over.
I wanted to ask you, any updates as far as your school? Are they planning on going back in person, or is this gonna still be virtual for the rest of the year?
You know what? They I don't think they've really sent like emails or any updates during our break, but the last update that they gave us was that we would not go back during the month of January, and that when we do go back, we're going to have 4 weeks of like prior notice in order to start preparing for it, like in classroom teaching. So obviously that means we're not going to be going in, completely in January, and I think that kind of says that February might be a no-go as well. So I think if we do go back, it's not going to happen until possibly March. But again, it's going to depend on the surge of cases, and I feel like right now it's
Pretty
worse
bad
than ever. So even though I know that the governor is saying that he's wanting kids back in the classroom, I don't know that that districts are really going
Open to it.
that. Yeah, exactly. There's just too much risk at this point, I think. But in December, I'm also a volleyball coach, so we were allowed to go back and do outdoor conditioning practice. So I did that with some of my kids. I want to say we did it for 3 weeks until they shut us down again. But to be honest, it was really nice to be able to do that. Not just for myself, but for the kids too. The school and myself, we were getting numerous emails from parents saying like what a difference they've noticed in their kids since conditioning started, and like just the fact that they get to be outside and they're working out, and they get to be around some of their peers, obviously socially distanced. Like everything that we did was the kids had to stay apart from each other, but just being in that environment again, that competitive environment, with each other was really, really great for them. And like I said, for me too, I got to get out of the apartment for a couple of hours, spend some time with my kids, and it was so much fun.
Oh, so, that's awesome. Yeah. And when does this volleyball season land usually?
It's in the fall. So usually volleyball starts we're already in season before school even starts. So my season usually starts in June with summer practices and summer tournaments, and we go all the way into the school year. So it's usually from June until November. Those are like my busiest times. So not having that this year was very weird. It was very, very
I'm
weird.
Sure. Yeah. And how were the kids with that?
Oh, they hated it, especially the seniors. They're super bummed that they're missing out on a season. I think what's the worst part about it is that they just give you enough information to keep you like hanging on, hanging on to that last bit of hope. So as of right now, the season isn't completely canceled yet. So so that's what I'm saying. It's just like I almost wish that they would give us like a definitive answer and give the kids a definitive answer, so that they're not just kept like hanging on or like stringing them along kind of thing. And so I think that's what's really been really frustrating.
Yeah, and I just saw an interview yesterday. I don't know his name, but he's a big name in the NBA, and he just, I think over the holidays, got COVID, and it's a big controversy because they were in a bubble. They had all these restrictions and implementations, and yet even that led him to be hit. Right. I forgot his name, but he's 60. I think he's a commentator now. Okay. I need to look up the name, but So I guess it's as hurtful as it is for the kids. I think it's a good thing that everyone's, having to do that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel that a lot of people feel that, it's kids aren't able to contract COVID or whatever it is, but the high school kids that I'm dealing with, the majority of them are 17, 16 years old, at that point, like their bodies might be able to contract it, and that's not a good thing.
What would be one of the good things that came out of the online and virtual learning for them? Is there anything that I was like, oh, I didn't expect this to be so well, and so forth?
You know what? I have to say that online learning isn't awful for everyone. I've actually noticed that a lot of my introverted students, sorry, are really enjoying this and are thriving in this setting. So I have a lot of contact with tons of students, but I have a very close relationship with all of my volleyball girls. And so since I know them really well, I mean, I've seen them play most of them since they were in 7th grade. Now they're like juniors and seniors, you know what I mean? I've known them for a while. And all of the girls on my team that are introverted that, don't usually like to socialize as much as some of the others, are saying how much how well they're doing, not how much they like it, but how well they're doing in the setting. And they just say, I have to read, I read my book, I find the answers to the questions, or I complete my work, and then I just go on with my day kind of thing. And I think that's the only positive, but there's just so many negatives,
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. What has been the biggest challenge for you trying to adapt? Because I would assume you guys had to shut down back in March, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we shut down. The last day on campus was March 13th. And what's nuts about this is that, when you're in a school setting, a lot of the times the districts and the schools themselves are going to be pretty conservative about the things that they say, the things that they react to, and everything like that. And so, for me, not that I have a problem with that, but at the same time, I feel like we need to make sure that we're informing our students the best way we possibly can, right? Or educating them at least. And so, I remember very clearly, the week before we were dismissed, that entire week, I was telling my students, this is a big deal. Please be careful. Make sure, if you guys have access to masks, I would start wearing them as soon as possible, just to protect yourselves and your families. Try not to go shopping, this and that. Keep your distance. And I actually had a lot of students who went out and were able to get PPE early, because I was mentioning this to them. And so afterwards, once we got the school, or once we did the school dismissal, when school was out, the kids couldn't believe that unfortunately what I had said was coming true, because I had told them I'd be surprised if school continues. I really think that we're going to shut down for a little bit. So yeah, that day was nuts. I mean, we were sitting at lunch, and we had a former retiree from our PE department come in, and he was the old athletic director, and the old department head and everything, just like the man on campus basically. And he had just retired 2 years ago, and we always loved his visits. It was always a big deal. And so he was on campus that day, he had planned to come and visit us. And then during lunchtime is when we were all together, and out of nowhere, we all the teachers get an email from the superintendent saying, check your emails right now. And so sure enough, it was just a huge announcement of her basically saying you're doing 6th and 7th period, which are the last 2 periods of the day. And then you're leaving.
Wow.
You're leaving for at least 2 weeks, grab all of your stuff that you need to teach from home. And same thing with the kids, get all of your things out of your locker, this and that. So, a lot of kids didn't, because they thought we were just going to come back in 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So a lot of the kids still had all of their stuff in their lockers, and their PE lockers, especially, and most of it is still there because they didn't get it, and they weren't able to go back to the school, or they didn't have to go back in. But the springtime is definitely a lot different than this year. In the springtime, the district decided to do I forget what the name, the proper name for it is, but basically we couldn't give a kid a grade lower than what they left the school with, than what they physically left with.
Okay.
So if a kid on March 13th had to be in the class, that was the lowest possible grade that they can get. their grade could go up if they did all of the work in the spring, or like the following months, but they couldn't get anything lower.
Okay.
So there was a lot of controversy over that, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
But, at that point, it was, we kind of had our hands tied because, we didn't know which kids had devices at home. We didn't know what they like had Wi-Fi, and it was, the springtime was just, it was nuts. It was crazy. And so finally, the district or the school really just like started, emailing all of the parents saying like, if your son or daughter needs a laptop, like come and get a Chromebook, like we're going to loan it to you until this whole restriction is over. And we were able to get a device to every single kid in the
That's great.
It was really cool. And then the kids that needed Wi-Fi, we were able to give them hotspots.
Really? Wow. Okay, great.
So I have to say that like the district that I'm at did a really, really great job of supporting their students, which is pretty, I don't want to say unheard of, but I know a lot of people are saying that the districts aren't supporting the kids. And I think ours did a really good job.
That's great. Is that Hasina Heights or?
It's Roland Unified.
Roland Unified.
Yeah.
Great job, guys.
Yeah.
So how long have you been teaching?
Oh man. I believe this is either my 6th or my 7th year. Yeah.
Right on. And what led you to become an educator?
You know what, to be honest, I kind of knew my entire life that I was going to be a teacher. I think the issue was always, what am I going to teach? And I knew ever since I was little. I'm the oldest of 4. So for me, like I've been a teacher my entire life, literally. Like I had to teach my little sisters a lot, so I think because of that, it was just kind of something that was in me. And so I started to notice that like, whenever we would do class projects and things like that, somehow, even though I would not volunteer, the leadership role would always fall on me. Like somehow I always found myself like in leadership positions, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And somehow at least like, I don't want to say dictating what everybody else did with the project, but definitely like more supervising than anything else, you know what I mean? And ever since I was a kid. And so then when I went to college, I wanted to avoid teaching at all costs because I always wanted to have like this like lavish lifestyle, and I wanted to travel and not worry about my expenses or anything like that. And of course, teaching is not it, if that's the kind of life you're trying to have.
The opposite, right? Well, you do get 2 months off to travel, but then expenses, that's the issue, right?
Exactly. So I tried really hard to kind of like veer away from teaching. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go into psychology. So I want to be a therapist, and I don't know why I thought that was going to make any more money, but whatever. So I ended up getting my bachelor's in psychology. And then once I finished school, I was like, I want to say maybe my senior year in college, I started kind of dabbling with the idea of going into history because I love history. Like I am a history nerd. You want to talk World War II, you want to talk the American Revolution, you want to talk about the Civil War. I am your person. Like I'm such a nerd when it comes to that. And so I don't know why, for some reason, it just like, it's a sponge in my head. It's like I have a sponge in my head for history. It's wild. But anyway, so I started taking a few classes. As an undergraduate, I actually ended up taking a graduate course on the Roman Empire. And
wow.
Without even trying, I ended up getting a B. So I was like, okay, like this might be something I need to do. But then of course, parents come in the picture and they're like, that means you're going to have to take like say an extra year in school. And like, just so that you could minor in history and have that. And they were basically just like, you need to finish, like it's getting expensive. You need to finish.
Yep.
So I ended up not going through with that, which I was really upset about, but I ended up getting my degree in psych and just, what did I do after that? I decided to go into a teaching credential program. So so I was finishing school finishing my undergraduate in January. and I was starting classes late January for the credential program already.
Right
So it
on.
was like one after the other. So yeah, then I finished the credential program, and then once I did that, I started teaching right off the back. I spent an entire like 3 months not talking to anyone, every single day, waking up, checking EdJoin, updating my profile as much as possible, like in my room, just like searching for jobs. I must have applied to like 55 teaching positions. And then finally, the last one I applied to was the middle school that I went to, and I got the job. Yeah, it was great.
So with your bachelor's, as long as you had your teacher credentials, you could teach.
So
how does that work?
So what you need to do though, in order to get into a teaching credential program, is you need to take either you need to major or like take like an X amount of courses in the subject that you're going to teach, in order to be able to get into the credential program, or you can take the CSET, which is like a standardized test. And so I was able to take the CSET and just pass it. So I did it in PE. So I'm a PE teacher.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And were you always a volleyball player?
I want to say my first volleyball team was probably when I was about anywhere between 10 and 12 years old. And I grew up in East LA. So a lot of like the sports leagues that we had over there were like you were in the same sports league, but you played different sports year round, which was really cool because my dad was my coach for
that's awesome.
Sport. Yeah. So we would play volleyball for a couple of months. We would do softball for a couple of months, soccer for a couple of months, basketball for a couple of months. And so he would basically coach our team for everything. And
that is great.
Yeah. So he was my first volleyball coach, and he never forgot about that. Like I was playing college volleyball at Mount Sac, and he was still trying to tell me what to do.
Once a coach, always a coach, right?
Yeah. So I think I started around 8 years old, but always did like rec ball leagues. My parents never, at least when I was younger, they never really had the money to put me in like club volleyball or anything like that. So it was always like either public school, on the team, or just like rec ball.
And what impact do you see now that you're the coach that sports add to their education of these high school students?
It's everything to a lot of these kids. It's everything. And then just to their overall experience in school, it enhances their experience so much. And I think that a lot of the times people just kind of tend to focus on the competitive side of volleyball or just sports in general.
Right.
But I think that's where they make the mistake. The way that I approach coaching is that I'm not necessarily coaching volleyball. I am making an impression on a young mind. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And like when you kind of like consider that, you start thinking about the kid as a whole, not just as a volleyball player. Like I'm not just trying to improve their volleyball skills. I want to make sure that they're good human beings. So a lot of my practices when it comes to coaching is very much related to that. And so because of that, I'm able to connect with the students about other things that they've got going on at school, whether it be like, things with their friends, things at home even. Oh my God, these kids. I've had like therapy sessions with multiple kids. You know what I mean? Like
I was going to ask you if you feel like a therapist at some points, but.
Oh yeah. And so, I think it's really important to, maybe not necessarily play sports, but definitely be involved in some type of extracurricular whenever you're in school, just because that's what you do for fun. That's what you get a choice in. You know what I mean? Yes. Like you choose to go try out for this team. You choose to be in choir. You choose to be in drama, whatever it might be. Whereas everything else, it's almost chosen for you. And when you give kids the opportunity to decide what they want to do, what they can accomplish is incredible. Just a little bit of power. And for me, I think it's important for kids to have that freedom.
Do you have any coaches that you look up to, that you model the way you approach your coaching? Aside from your dad, I suppose.
You know what? Yeah, I had a coach that was really impactful for me. Actually, so I teach at the school that I went to, at the high school that I went to now. And so the coach I had at the time, he was my volleyball, basketball, and softball coach. And I don't know what the heck he saw in me, but you know, mind you, at the school that I go to, there's a lot of kids that you know are able to pay for club or able to play for travel ball or just everything like that. I never did, you know, I never had that. And so as a freshman, I remember him seeing me and like he saw me volleyball first and he automatically put me on the freshman team. Um, Same thing with basketball, automatically on the freshman team, and then same thing with softball. He put me on the varsity team, which is great. So as a freshman, I was on varsity, which is, you know, a pretty big deal
Yeah, it is.
And so then he just, I think, saw me as like a raw athlete. Like I was just very athletic, very coordinated, and he knew that he could basically coach me up and teach me however he wanted. And yeah, he would like he ran the entire program, so he was at every single game. And so every time that I would play, he would always give me feedback on the side, kind of like, hey, like, you know, I saw that you did this here, like try this next time and then see if it works for you. So even when he wasn't my actual coach, like he was just like the head of the program, he was still coaching me, if that makes any sense, because I think he knew that like I would eventually be on his team.
Smart guy.
Yeah. And not only that, but I always noticed the relationships that he had with his players. Every single one of his players loved him. Like they would go to war for this guy type of thing. Like that's
awesome.
like, we loved him, you know? And my mentality as a coach was always very similar to that, where I want every kid to want to play for me. You know what I mean?
So how do you go about that? What makes them tick? How do you find out what makes them tick?
Well, when they make mistakes. But the thing is, like, you know what I mean? When they make a mistake, it's going to make them tick. They're athletes, they're competitors, you know, they're competitive with like within themselves. So they make a mistake, that's going to make them upset. So a lot of the times I feel like, you know, if it's something that's continuous, I might raise my voice a little. You might get Coach Val coming out at you, but most of the time, to be honest, I use a lot of reinforcement. I use a lot of positive reinforcement. I'm very stoic when I coach. Like I will just stand there and my emotions will be the same if you did something great or if you did something really awful. And the reason why is because I don't like my kids to panic whenever there's like stressful situations or whenever it's like a high risk situation. I like them to remain calm. And, you know, coaches can be very emotional. And a lot of the times if something is going bad and the coach is losing their mind, players are going to do the same thing. So I can't do that. You know what I mean? I have to keep it together and be basically as stoic as possible. But at the same time, they know that if they do something great, if they get like a little smile from me, like they know they did something really amazing.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's great. I love it. I miss it so much. I think more than anything though, I miss how do I say this? I miss the little wins. And what I mean by that is like, I miss like teaching a kid something or spending some time with a kid, like working on something on a skill and then them getting it and their face just like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it. Wow, I actually got it. You know, and it's just like, these things happen at practice. They don't usually happen at games. When they happen at games, they're electric, you know, but most of the time it happens at practices. And I miss that. I miss seeing, the
growth, right? The little milestones.
Yes. And then the athletes realizing that they can accomplish whatever they put their minds to if they work hard at it, you know? And so that's definitely what I miss. The competition, you know, of course, but the time with the students and their growth is definitely what I miss.
Well, I do hope COVID goes away real soon so we can get back to some kind of normal times. Now you mentioned when you mentioned Rome and you mentioned history, I kind of wanted to pick your brain, but if you can't answer, that's totally fine. But Rome is huge, right? There's so much history behind that. Do you see something because you know the saying, history repeats itself. What is there something in the Roman Empire that is happening right now with this pandemic that we're reliving? Is there anything we can learn from then to apply to us today, I guess?
I think the one thing that I can tie to is, the demise of the Roman Empire was their greed. So
Right.
I think in a sense for us, or at least with this pandemic, I think that, as this pandemic has been happening, obviously, I'm sure you know that the wealthier are just getting wealthier and the poor are just getting poorer. So it just seems like greed is starting to kind of become a thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or or if not, then it's becoming more obvious. And I'm afraid that that's going to lead to our downfall.
Do you feel this pandemic exposed our economy and that led to things fueling things like Black Lives Matter and such things?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 100%. I feel like, at the beginning of this, everybody kind of didn't really know what it was, know who it was targeting, and it became very obvious, that the people who it was targeting the most were people of color and people that were more on the low SES status. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's 100% exposing that. Think about like places like Orange County, in a sense, where the majority of the people there are, they're white, and they're not, a lot of them aren't wearing masks and things like that because they're probably not worried that they're going to get it. Like, if I feel that if this was a virus that was targeting white folks, then this would be handled very differently.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And it baffles me because it's not like they're not brushing their teeth, not washing their hands, not taking showers. So it's not like they're not unfamiliar with things that are invisible. So it kind of baffles me on that end. So
Absolutely.
That's what gets me.
Yeah, me too. It's frustrating. You know what I mean? My sister
it is.
is a nurse, so she comes home, or she'll get off of work, and I try to call her whenever I know that she's about to get off, just because I know that she needs to talk about her day, and most of the time she ends up sobbing and in tears because she can't believe what she just witnessed in the hospital, or she can't believe that at this point 9 out of the 12 units in her hospital are COVID units, and she can't believe that they're having to put patients in the cafeteria, and like,
wow.
It's bad. Yeah, things are bad. And she was mentioning how, like, she was afraid, or I guess like the medical field is calling January like Black January or Dark January, because they're expecting so many deaths this month.
Instead of the flu, it's gonna be COVID, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So because I get to hear her side of everything, it's very frustrating when I go like on social media or I go online and I see that people are, outside not really caring.
Yeah. I mean, I just lost an old coworker just right before the new year. Breaks my heart because he lives, he leaves behind 2 kids.
Oh.
And the financial impact that's going to have on that family. It's crazy.
Oh, sure.
He was a sole provider.
Yeah.
So
I hear that. Yeah.
But on a good note, they did put up a GoFundMe, and they, last time I checked, like double what they were asking for. So that makes me really happy on that end, but it shouldn't have come to this
right.
far. And this gentleman, he was he was being precautious.
Yeah.
But things at work happened, and he was one of the casualty, unfortunately.
That's awful. Yeah.
What do you feel you've learned personally because of COVID?
Gratitude.
Your finances and
finances?
Yes, that too. Both, I guess.
I mean, just personally, gratitude. I'm very fortunate to live where I live, and I get to step out, and I'm watching the sunset almost daily now, and I take that time to, quote unquote, count my blessings. You know what I mean? To be thankful for what I've got, be thankful for my health and the health of those around me. So definitely gratitude. As far as finances, I've been able to save a lot more. So I'm very fortunate because of the current positions that I've gotten from the school. I'm getting paid more than I did last year. So I'm very fortunate in that sense. But because of that, I'm also making sure that I save either for a rainy day or for eventually buying a home.
That's great. I think it's taught us all to save more.
Oh yeah.
I mean, 3 months feels like nothing now, considering people lost their job for way more than 3 months.
Yeah.
But that's great. I think that's important. And do you feel because you're a teacher, you view finances a little bit differently, or?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think what I do, what is different though, is that teachers get paid once a month. So it's not biweekly. We get paid once a month at the end of the month. So what I do is, regardless of when my bills are due, as soon as I get paid, I pay all of my bills. So I'll pay my rent, I'll pay utilities, credit card bills, whatever I need to pay, like between the first and the third. Just to like get it out of the way, and so that I know how much money I've got to spend on groceries or save or spend on myself. Okay. So it makes it easier to budget because
you're forced
you have no choice.
Yeah.
For the month. So yeah.
And well, I always ask this every guest. What's something you've learned financially from your parents?
Ooh, it's really funny because my dad, man, he's a big spender. He loves spending money and he can spend it. And he gets it from my grandma. And my mom is a big saver. So I don't know how, but she is so good with saving. And she's one trick that she taught me when I was younger was to have like a yellow envelope, like one of those big yellow envelopes. And every 2 weeks or every time I would get paid, to put 20% of how much I made into that envelope. And so she, apparently this is something that she would do when she was younger. And she wanted all of us girls to do it, but I'll do it for like a month, or I'll do it for like 2 months. And all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, money.
Let's do it now.
So the good intentions are there, but I definitely get more of my dad's spending habits than my mom's, unfortunately.
Got it.
It's one of those things where, like, in the back of my mind, I'm spending and I'm like, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this. You don't need it. But I do it anyway.
Have you considered maybe switching that envelope to a virtual kind of like, so instead of cash, putting into a separate savings account?
Yeah, I actually did that. Yeah.
Okay.
I ended up, so because I'm a teacher, I have access to Schools First. So I ended up.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I love them.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So
I wish I was a teacher just for that.
So I ended up opening like an account with them, and they have this really cool feature called the Summer Saver. And so basically teachers get paid either 10 or 11 months out of the 12-month year. So we really have to budget for ourselves for the last month or 2 months, right? And so what Schools First does is, if you have an account with them, you get to open the Summer Savers. So they take a percentage or like a certain amount out every paycheck, and then they release it to you the month that you don't get paid, or the months that you don't get paid. So
fantastic.
It's almost like you never go without your paycheck, even though you're only working either like 10 or 11 months out of the year. So that's definitely something that has helped out a lot.
That's great. And what do you think high school students, but more importantly, college students, should know about money and finances?
Ooh. I would say to, if you can, start saving as early as possible. And if possible, I would advise that they start a savings account that they can't touch until they're older. Just because adulting is tough. And there will be days when you might have trouble paying the rent, or you might have trouble paying off some bills, or maybe you get into some credit card trouble. You're going to want that money there. So I would 100% recommend that they start saving, even if it's $20 a paycheck. Start as young as possible, and try not to touch it as much as possible.
I guess my last question would be, what has money played in your personal growth?
You know what, to be honest, I would say it's definitely played a big role. when I was younger, like I mentioned earlier, we lived in East LA. We rented a tiny place in like a triplex, I think. So my parents weren't very well off, but then, my dad worked his butt off and, moved us out to Berlin Heights, which we're very fortunate for. They ended up buying their own house, and, we grew up in that area, and a lot changed. My dad started working, different hours, started, getting promotions left and right. And so all of a sudden our financial standing as a family started to grow and grow and grow. So, I think one of the biggest effects that money, or quote unquote money, has had on me is probably my work mentality. So it might not be the best thing ever, but like I can very much be a workaholic.
I see.
It's very hard for me not to work. Like when I was younger, while I was in college, I held 3 jobs. I was a coach. I was coaching like two different teams. I had a retail job. And then, this is all while I was like an athlete in college, and I was still a full-time student. So it was nuts.
Wow.
But, yeah. So, I think that workaholic mentality is definitely something that has affected me. Like I said, when I was younger, if I was sitting at home, my mentality was, why am I sitting here when I could be making money? So that's something that I had to work a lot on, because I started to realize it was not healthy. So, as I got older, I think I started to realize that money comes and goes.
Right.
And, I just need to do my best to save it. And, wealth doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how much you make. It's how much you can hold on to that matters.
Exactly. Yes. You found the key. That's pretty much it. I mean, myself and my wife, I'm looking back at this past year with COVID. Fortunately, she was not really affected, but my income definitely was affected. But we've managed to still pay off some credit cards, save. We didn't have to dip into our emergency savings, but if we had to, it's there. So it's proof that really it's how much you keep and not so much how much you make. Obviously, if you make more, it's much easier to hit your savings goal, but it's also very much easy to spend that money away. So you're absolutely right when you say that it's how much you hold. And I think sometimes you just need to learn and have life kind of teach you those kind of things.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, there's so many things I could have learned from my parents, and yet I still managed to do exactly what they did. And life is the best slap in the face, We're going to end our segment with our fun, fast 5. Wow, I can't even pronounce it. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. What's the best $5 you spent in the past year?
For some reason, this keeps coming back to my mind, but we recently went to a camping trip in Mammoth, and I got a really good cup of coffee before our long drive home. And for some reason, for me, there's just something perfect and beautiful about a cup of coffee as you're starting your road trip. So I would have to say that.
Awesome. Number 2, if money was not an issue, what is that one unnecessary thing you just splurge your money on?
Oh man, if money was not an issue, I would say traveling. I would take off. People would not hear from me for years. And just
for years. Awesome.
Jump from like island to island, country to country, and just, backpack on my back and not have to worry about anything.
Any specific spot you first want to go to?
Asia.
Asia. Okay.
I want to visit. I want to visit Thailand for sure. I want to visit Cambodia, Indonesia.
Oh man,
those places. Yeah, I would love that so much.
That sounds like a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, best money mistake you've made.
When I was 19, I think. I don't know. I'm a huge No Doubt fan, and
nice.
Yeah, No Doubt was playing at the Gibson Theater in Universal City, and like I mentioned, I'm the oldest of 4, so of course, my little sisters, I made sure they loved No Doubt as well. So they were in town, and I decided to buy pit tickets for all of us, and then I basically bought pit tickets for every day that they were in town. And I must have maxed out my card. At like 19, I want to say I probably spent a solid like, shoot, I don't even know. Back then it was probably like $5,000.
Wow. Wait, how many days in a row did they play there?
3.
3. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's probably the best money mistake I made.
All right, kids, stick to one concert.
Go to one and you don't need the pit tickets.
Number 4, name a thing, place, service, product that made you go, this is the last time I'm buying this.
Oh man, that's really hard. I think every time that I like go to breakfast and it's awful. And the reason why is because I love cooking, and my favorite meal to cook is breakfast. So I feel like every time I go out for breakfast, if it's not like a perfect meal or if it doesn't wow me, I'm just like, ugh, never getting that again, or like never doing that again. So I would definitely say that. And the reason why too is because I used to have a really bad habit of spending money on food, like restaurant food and everything like that. And that's something that I'm currently working on is making sure that I'm not, eating at restaurants when I could be making it at home.
Well, I mean, COVID is definitely making it easier now. Because you're not seeking that experience of sitting down there. So, I mean, I know for me and Kim, it's been much easier to cook at home because we kind of have to. But that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And then the last one, what is the best money tip you got when you were in your early 20s?
I don't know if this is the best money tip, but it's definitely the best money related tip. I was once told that money comes and goes, but the memories you make while traveling will last forever. So awesome. I would, early 20s, if you're in your early 20s and you're not traveling, you're doing something wrong, man. That is the time to travel. Don't wait until you have a full-time job, because when you have that full-time job, guess what? You're going to wait till you're able to get a week off, and it's not going to happen.
Takes forever.
Yes.
It takes forever to get that 1 week.
Yes, definitely. So, yeah, I mean, if you have the means for it, I would definitely recommend for people in their 20s to travel. I did it and I enjoyed every minute of it.
That is a wonderful tip.
Yeah.
Well, Val, thank you so much for coming on. This was fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
And I want to personally thank you for your work, because kids need people like you. And I think it's awesome to see your passion and to see you really want to be there for the kids. I know obviously most teachers are like that, but I've met some teachers, I could tell they're just waiting for their retirement. So thank you for not being one of those.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, hey, stay safe. I will see you next time. And I'm wishing you and the school and the kids a wonderful rest. Well, a wonderful rest. We just started it. So a wonderful 2021. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you
so much. Bye.
Bye.